Anyways, I just want to say good morning, everyone, and thank you for asking me to speak on my family's recent hiring of a non-family member to manage our business. For the cafe members in the audience, this may seem counter to the philosophy and the programs provided to you in your quest to understand how best to turn your business over to the next generation. And while the challenges of transitioning your business over to the next generation may be daunting at times, so too is the challenge of finding someone outside the family that understands the nature of family business, understands and respects the values imbibed in the culture of your business, and has the ability to express your vision and fulfill the mission of the family business. Just as a background to our family business, the Pickford Group has its beginnings in the 1940s as T.R. Pickford and Company. That was my grandfather's company, and he began his business by importing wire rope and various drilling equipment. In the 50s, my father, Ron Williamson, joined his father-in-law in growing the business, taking on various oil industry product lines, valves, wellheads, and such. As my grandfather approached retirement, Ron took over some of the product lines and began his own business in 1960, operating as wellhead controls. Through the 60s, 70s, and 80s, the company continued to grow, and by 1989 had built its business into three distinct divisions: flow control, wellhead, and plant maintenance and equipment. It was in 1989 that the wellhead division was sold off, and the company reorganized itself into what is today the Pickford Group. Since then, the company has continued to expand its presence in the flow control and the plant maintenance and repair equipment business. We've been actively involved with Cafe, I think, since the early 90s. And I think we have a pretty good understanding of what the task of turning the business over to the next generation entails. We understand, or we thought we understood, the concepts, the challenges. We understand the milestones and the markers for making the transition. But what we really didn't understand is how the timelines for a transition can be halted by family tragedy. And in 1998, our mother was diagnosed with non-Hodgkin's. The following 2 years was tumultuous in her treatment, and the entire family had to really kind of regroup. She passed in the summer of 2000, and what followed was an extended period of finding the best way to cope. Ron, the founder, poured himself into work, and we were all relieved to see him doing that. Business was taking off, certainly didn't want to discourage him from spending so much time at work, and I think it provided him a sense of certainty in his world, a stable footing in his world, and gave him strength to be in control. At the same time as what might be considered manic work habits, the plans of transition got parked. We all thought it best for him to be busy, to be engaged, and to be thriving at something that was his passion. We thought this was good grief management. And perhaps it was. The business was growing exponentially, profit margins had never been higher, but what was forgotten about by all of us was the plan, the transition plan. So we all continued along this path, and in 2011, yet another family tragedy with our brother Kent dying. So this event was the showstopper, and I think more so for my dad. We found ourselves coming back to the question of what is this all for? And who are we doing it for? And I think we came to the realization that while encouraging our father to keep his active role in the business after our mother's death, we inadvertently stalled the transition in its tracks. And it was our brother's death that fast-forwarded the key players in the transition discussion to the realization that we'd parked the successors of the business for the last 12 years. With almost 12 years passing since the preparations of transition and the realization that nothing had been done, I think it'd be fair to say that my brother Mike, now approaching 60, was perhaps not quite so keen to carry on the charge of the business. Exhausted and grief-stricken, our family retrenched. We re-examined the purpose of the business as related to the family. We each asked ourselves what was going to be the best for the family and best for the business. And were the two designed and destined to be linked? We knew that transitioning the business over to the next generation of the family was not likely going to happen, so we decided to put a for sale sign on it. The realities of trying to sell a private business weren't what we thought it was going to be. The multiples are very low compared to what public companies get, and we were very disappointed with what the best scenario could yield. The exercise, however, was important as it seemed to provide a rallying call for the family to come back together and get creative about keeping the business in the family. It was at this point that we'd asked our advisors at Stowowski and McGill to contact the David Applin Group and Holly Hetherington, and we want to explore the idea of hiring someone to run the business for us. So in the summer of 2012, we began the process of developing a template for the person we were looking for to run the business, and this was a very difficult task. It was difficult in that we were trying to ask someone who spent the last 50 years of running a company on gut feel, intuition, and rote behavior what it is that he does, and he just looked at us blankly. So Holly was excellent in coaxing my father Ron into building this profile of the ideal candidate that they should be looking for. And by January 2013, Applin Group had developed a profile. They had run national advertisements, conducted preliminary and second interviews, and narrowed the field of candidates from around 100 down to 12 or so. And in February, we began our first interviews. This was actually the first time that we had met any of the candidates, was at this juncture. And it was a two-day event. I have to say that we as a family were probably just as stressed as the candidates who were presenting. And after 2 full days of interviews, we'd come to the decision and we extended an offer to a gentleman by the name of Mel Kazian, who is now our president. But after that, we hammered out an executive compensation package and a contract, and he began working for us in the first part of March. So the transition process has been moving forward. It's been a journey for the family members actively working in the business. My brother is finding a new stride and a new perspective in being a director and an owner of a business and no longer a full-time employee. Mel is adjusting to the culture and has a good understanding of it and is learning the business as well. But our founder, father, now the chairman, he's taken a little bit longer to adjust, and rightly so. I think after 50 years, it's kind of hard to get out of the big chair. But he's taken on the role of chairman, and he's trying to operate at a higher elevation. And even though he's in first thing in the morning still, and is secretly running off AP and AR reports, and still a little too close to ground level. And Mel, he's been an absolute gentleman in allowing Ron to think that he's getting away with it. So anyways, that's, I just wanted to share that. That's why we did go to the outside. I think it's important for CAFE members to understand that things don't always work out as what you think they're going to. But at the end of the day, sometimes everything does happen for a reason, and I try to remain philosophical about it in that manner. And so thank you very much.